Hi everyone, welcome back. So far we were storing one value in one variable, but what if we want to store multiple values? For example, marks of 5 students. Instead of creating 5 variables here, we use array. For example, we have int a equal to 10, b is 20 and c is 30 and so on. So instead of creating multiple variables, we can use arrays. We can store all these values in one single array, which is cleaner and scalable. So let's see what are arrays. An array is a collection of elements of the same type stored in a single variable. Now let's see the syntax. So definition looks like the data type and open and close brackets and then array name. Okay, so let's see this with example. Let's say int open and close brace and array. This is how we define an array, and let's see how do we initialize the array. So array name equal to new data type and size. Okay, so in this case array name is arr, new data type is int here, and the size let's say 5. Okay, so this is how we define and initialize an array. We can also do it using combined, like in one line. So instead of having this line, we can directly add it here by adding equals, and we can also use directly add the values instead of creating new int the size. For example, int array2 equal to list of values directly 10, 20, 30. In this case, the size of the array is 3. So this is how we directly assign values without using new here. Let's see how it works. The values in the arrays are stored in continuous memory location. For example, if this is the array and it has 10, 20, 30 and 40, and in the memory it will be stored something like continuous blocks of memory, which will have 10, 20, 30 and 40. So this is how it will be stored, and the array will be pointing to the first block. Here the indexing starts from 0 and not 1. So for example, here there are 4 elements, right? So it starts from 0, 1, 2 and 3. So if we try to access array element of 0, it will be 10 here, and array element of 1, which is equal to 20, whereas arrays element of 4 we cannot use here. It will lead to an exception here, okay, which I'll explain while explaining in the IntelliJ. When the array is declared as for example new int of 10, then we can access the elements from 0 to 9. So 9th will be the last element of this array. Okay, so this is how the array works internally. So let's see this with example in IntelliJ. So let's see how do we access the elements. As I mentioned, we have to use the index to access the elements. So let me print few elements here, and let's print array to, and let's run this. Yeah, so it gives the 30, that is 0, 1, 2, the third element it gives. So this is how we will be accessing the elements in the array. And how can we modify? So for example, we have to change this 30 to 50. I will change array of 2 equal to 50 here, and now I'll print the same, that is I'll copy paste the same thing and run this. See, if you see, it was 30 in the first print statement. Once we modify that, it changed it to 50, whereas the other 2 elements did not change, only third element of the array will be changed. So if you want to print the entire array, we can use loops here. So for example, if int I equal to 0 and I should be less than the array length, right? So array 2 dot length we need to use. So length will give the size of this array, okay, and I plus plus, incrementing the I. Inside this, I'll print the array elements one by one. I will select the array name, that is array to the index. So here index will be I, as I will have 0 to less than the length of the array. Okay, let's run this. Before that, let me print the something like array values, and let me run this. So if you see, it will print 10, 20 and 50 as I modify the second element as 50 here. And this is how we can print all the elements inside the array. So here you always remember not to add equal to, because the array's length gives you the exact length. So for example, array 2 dot length returns the value as 3. Okay. So we should always access the value from 0 to less than 3, that is 2. Okay. I'll try to debug this quickly in the debug mode, and I'll run this. End of the program. Okay, and I'll add a debug point here as well, and also here, and quickly run in the debug mode, and let's see what happens here. So let's see what is the I here. Okay, and I is 0 initially, so it prints array of 0 here, which is 10, and then it moves and I becomes 1, array of 1, array of 2 it prints, and then when it becomes 3, that is the length of the array, it comes out of the loop, because I should be less than the length of the array, and it comes to the end of the program. Okay, let me quickly remove all this. So let's see what happens if we try to access the array which is more than the size. So first I will directly write here by adding array index of 5, for example, which is not there, and I will try to run this, and it throws the exception saying array index out of bound exception, because index 5 out of bound for length 3. Okay, the same thing happens even if you try equal to here. I'll run this. If you see, it will be 10, 20, 50. After that, when it comes inside, it just says array index out of bound for the value 3, because the length is 3. We have to only access 0 to 2. Okay, and one more thing is, it's not a method here. You should not use the brackets here. So we should avoid using brackets, as it is a final int variable which is directly accessed. Okay, it's a variable and not a method. Yeah, also this array is created and initialized but never added values to this, right? So by default, if you don't add any values to the arrays, the default values it stored will be 0. So let's check this. So I will add, instead of printing the array 2, I'll print here the first array where it doesn't have any values, and let's run this and see what values it prints. So if you see, it prints 5 zeros here, because the size of the array is 5, and all the values will be 0. So if you define the array of 2 equal to some 40, in this case, if you see, it prints all the 0 except the third element as 40. So this is how the arrays will be defined by default. Let's see what are the few limitations of array here. Here if you see, the length of the array, so fixed size has to be given in the beginning of the code. So if we don't know the size of the array, then it's a problem, right? And second thing is, all the elements inside an array should be of same data type. So I cannot store like one as 10 and the other one as a string here and the other one as a double. Okay, so this throws error, as this is not of type int here. I cannot also assign some other type here. So it's always the same data type has to be stored inside an array. Okay, so in interviews they might ask these limitations that are like array size is fixed and it stores the same data type, and also the index starts from the 0. Okay, so let's quickly recap what we learned today. In this video we learned what arrays are and how to declare and initialize the array, and how to access these elements using the index, and also how to use loops to access the entire array. Okay, in the next episode we will learn about strings in Java, one of the most commonly used concepts in real programs. Thanks for watching.